Coming up on the live and interactive ACSA Legislative Lunch Break, we'll bring you all of your latest news and information from the state capitol and CDE with an in-depth analysis on how it impacts you. Plus, we're taking you inside the state capitol today to give you a review of the legislative session. What proposed bills do you need to know about that could have an impact on your school districts? We've got two ACSA legislative advocates on the show to tell you more. The ACSA Legislative Lunch Break starts right now. And it's just after 1 o'clock. We welcome you on a Wednesday to the live and interactive ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. I'm Naj Ali Khan, ACSA's Senior Director of Marketing and Communications. Welcome. We are honored to have you with us today. Edgar on assignment again today, so I'll be solo with our two ACSA legislative advocates who will give you a complete rundown on what's happening inside the state capitol with proposed legislation that's coming up in just a moment. Want to say hello to some of our members who are on the chat today. Mary Stark, first on the chat with us today. Sheldon Smith, Gloria McKierney, and our ACSA president, Daryl Camp, with us as well. So good to have all of you with us on the show today. Again, we've got our ACSA governmental relations advocates on the show today, Cordell Hampton and Dorothy Johnson. We'll get a review of what's happening with the budget, also some proposed legislation, important legislation that will have an impact on your school district with respect to staffing and accountability, and of course the budget. So we'll give you that rundown in just a moment. First, let me get you one news headline. In a second Sacramento area school district has now gone on strike as well. The teachers there on strike as well. Natomas High School, which has about 17,000 students, they have gone on strike. This comes a few days after Twin Rivers Unified, also in Sacramento, went on strike. Wages and benefits, as you would expect, are the focus issues in these strikes, with educators looking for increases to their salaries and benefits, among other issues. At the beginning of the month, it was reported as many as 15 districts have either reached impasse or authorized strikes. In Natomas, schools remained open on Monday, despite, according to KCRA TV, the cancellation of meetings at the bargaining table. So again, more news about strikes going on throughout the state. Now, two happening in the Sacramento area. I'm going to pivot real quick because I don't get to share a whole lot of family news here on the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break, and Edgar not with us today. I want to take you down to Long Beach yesterday. As many of you know, I'm a college football guy. I've always wanted a college football player. I went down yesterday to take in the first ever Long Beach State girls flag football game between Long Beach State and Cypress College. You are looking at Lily Alicon, freshman at Long Beach State, the starting cornerback for that team. She had one tackle and a catch. This is the first year of the program over at Long Beach State. So he's helping to launch that program. As I said, I always wanted a college football player, and now I finally have one. So excited to bring that to all of you as well. As we hit the 5-minute mark here on the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break, we want to pivot now. Take you inside the state capitol. There's a lot happening during this legislative session. We obviously had the governor's proposal, the budget proposal, come out in January, but now proposed legislation is out. Hearings are underway, and we want to tell you how that could impact your school district. So let's bring on our two great governmental relations advocates here from ACSA, Dorothy Johnson and Cordell Hampton, with us here on the live and interactive ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. Cordell, let me start with you. The governor's proposal, the budget proposal, included withholding $5.6 billion in guaranteed school funding to manage economic uncertainty. That was Prop $98. What feedback are you getting from lawmakers with respect to that $5.6 billion holdback? Because again, this was supposed to be about managing budget pressures. And as that grow, and now we have this issue in the Middle East, which is already affecting us at the pump. How is all of this working? This economic uncertainty and that 5.6 billion, is this something that we could actually see impact the school districts?
Yeah, no, thanks for having us this afternoon. I think this is definitely a growing tension point for a lot of members in the state legislature, both in the Senate and in the Assembly. I think members, if you recall from last year, the governor had withheld 1.9 billion for Proposition 98, and in this year's budget is proposing to reallocate that 1.9 billion as part of the 26-27 Budget Act. But even when the 1.9 billion had gone through the legislature last year, a lot of members were a little hesitant and had some concerns, just given that it was a new kind of manipulation to Proposition 98. But this year, as we look at the 5.6, I think there's even more tension, more hesitancy. But members are also, what we're hearing, are in a very difficult position. You have Proposition 98 that's projected to continue to increase over the next couple of years. But then you also have the state's also in a structural deficit over the next couple of years, going from 27 billion to 35 billion over the next 2 to 3 year period. And so the state's a lot of legislators are grappling with how to manage growing cost pressures on the non-98 side. And as we saw last year and this year, looking at Proposition 98 to kind of feel and address those pressures. I think what we're also seeing in the Middle East as well is something that the LEO has been mentioning since late fall of last year, has continued to mention into this year as well, is that there's a lot of volatility in the stock market and how that's going to have an impact on state revenues as well. What we've seen, and as I mentioned that, and we're talking about volatility in state revenues, on the flip side of that, what we've seen since January's budget release is also revenues continue to exceed expectations. So just like we saw in the fall, Proposition 98 and Proposition 2 are expected to see a slight increase. Overall, there's revenues are exceeding about $6 billion. So there'll be a small increase in Proposition 98 and Proposition 2. But again, it will be really interesting come May how the governor is going to be scoring those revenues. If we could potentially see the Proposition 98 withholding grow, since there's more revenues, and then we know that the legislature is stressed and is tight on money and needs more money on the non-98 side. So there'll be more details coming in May in terms of how these revenues will be scored, if we see any differences moving forward. But there's definitely a lot of tension and heartache in the legislature on how to address the state's growing deficit.
Yeah, certainly something that we're going to have to monitor. Dorothy, ACSA has been working on this 60-day substitute legislation now for more than a year. There was widespread support in the education, among the education groups, but last year the governor vetoed it. Can you give us some background on where we are right now because of how important this legislation is to school districts?
Yeah, happy to, and want to say thanks for having me back. I think it's been almost a year since I've been able to join you guys.
Seriously? Has it been a year?
I think so. So it's great to be back, great to be out with our members, and great to be talking about this really important issue. I have to give a shout out to our amazing colleague, Stret Kaminsky. She's been leading the charge with our partners at the School Board Association, business officials, CASBO, or California Association of School Business Officials, too many acronyms, and then of course our California County Superintendents. You're right, there was a bill last year, AB 1224 by Assemblymember Valencia. It only got one no vote the entire time, but the governor did veto it. And in that veto message, he gave two recommendations for next steps. One, let the CTC use their regulatory powers to find some expedited solutions to make sure students have continuity in the classroom. We get those 60. And then the governor also said in his veto message, I know we can make a Wizard of Oz joke here, but I don't know if anybody else heard that little tornado that passed through.
Yeah, I did. Okay. I was wondering what that was.
Everything's good and safe here in Kansas. The other point was about the assembly member coming back next year and saying, hey, put in some additional requirements on the substitutes who are in those 60 days of service in the classroom, just to make sure that there's the right sort of level of mentorship, professional development, and so on. So since then, since that veto message, ACSA members have been super engaged with the CTC. Only problem is CTC went kind of sideways on us. They passed some regulations as a draft. They're going through that process that really don't meet the needs of our students or staff. And they definitely don't meet the needs of our special education students. Those allowances were cut short. The good news is ACSA is pursuing potential legislation with our partners again to help find some remedies absent CTC coming up with the solutions themselves.
Dorothy, my team behind the scenes is pointing out that Cordell was so upset about you not having been here in a year that he decided he wanted more attention on himself. So he was screwing with the microphone, and that's why we had that tornado sound. I was very concerned about what was going on. Cordell, how about this? I'll just give you the next question so you don't have to mess around with your microphone. ACSA is involved with a number of accountability bills. Can you break this all down for us and what the impact will be for school districts?
Sure thing. So I think, for ACSA, we started our accountability journey several years ago with SB 1315 by Senator Archuleta that required CDE to essentially review all reports done at the state and federal level and for ways for them to either eliminate or truncate those reports or consolidate those reports. Later on, we did see the final report come out from CDE, and it was a little bit lackluster. It didn't necessarily address all the concerns that we were hoping it would. And we re-upped our effort, and we used another proposal to address the same thing we were trying to address originally. In addition to legislation forcing CDE to review those reports, ACSA also worked really closely with WestEd on getting down to Facts 3 to also which is a very highly influential California education system organization, to also look through reports, working with our members to identify reports and find out ways to also reduce them. And then lastly, we did, as part of our accountability effort on reports, was look at the California Law Review Commission, which is a review commission that looks at different sections of law and code and finds out ways where there can be improvements. They're an independent third party that has agreed to work with ACSA on identifying additional sections, both at state and the federal level, reports that can be eliminated or truncated. As part of our continuing efforts, we have two bills. We have HR 87 by Senator Mary Suchi, which is a resolution that's meant to kind of commit the California State Assembly to thinking about why are we doing so many reports, what's the purpose of reports, how long are these reports in statute, and are there ways to kind of limit or reduce them. And their other bill right now is AB 2008 by Senator Patel, who's the current chair of Assembly Education Committee, that's looking to put an automatic sunset date on any new report that doesn't have a sunset date included as part of its provisions. So there's more work to be done here, and excited to kind of create some pressure or some relief for you guys in terms of spending less time on reports and more time working with kids.
I do want to point out Dorothy Johnson, Cordell Hampton, ACSA Governmental Relations Advocates joined us. I don't know if the two of you have noticed, but over in the chat, Dr. Nancy Padilla is watching from Hawaii. If I'm reading that correctly, she's watching from Hawaii. So Dr. Padilla, if that is correct, go ahead and jump into the chat. And if you have a photo of how much you're enjoying watching the show while you're sitting in Hawaii, definitely send that to us. Dorothy, we were corresponding yesterday. You made note of this workplace violence bill. Can you tell us a little bit about this and what it could mean for districts?
Sure, and this is our sponsored effort, Assembly Bill 1961 by Assemblymember Ahrens out of the Santa Clara area. And this is trying to give our school employers an additional tool in their toolbox to create safe work sites, safe campuses, safe administrative offices. It's building on existing law, existing authority, where you may seek a temporary restraining order for an employee or employees who are targeted, whether it's by a parent, a student, a community member, another employee. You have this authority. The problem is when those threats come in and they don't talk about a specific individual or they don't talk about a group of individuals, it's about the work site. It's a school campus. Again, it's a district office. Unfortunately, the way that the temporary restraining orders are set up, you can't file for that. And we think that leaves a gap as we're trying to create, again, safer places to work, to learn, to grow. So our bill, AB 1961 by Assemblymember Ahrens, would allow restraining orders to be sought when those threats are against, say, a specific high school campus or a football field or any other place where your employees are carrying out their responsibilities to serve kids, to serve students. So far, we're in the no oppose zone, which is great. We have a couple amendments coming through, and we should be heading to our first committee hearing in Assembly Judiciary in the next couple of weeks.
And folks, if you do have any questions for Dorothy or Cordell, go ahead and put those into the chat. and we'll try and tackle some of those at the back end of the show. Dr. Padilla is indeed watching from Hawaii. Hope you're enjoying your time over there on the beach. Let me ask both of you. We know that many proposed bills are the way they are at the beginning, but by the time lawmakers are voting on the floor for them, they look a little bit different. Is there a bill out there right now that you look at and say, I don't think that's going to be that way by the time it hits lawmakers? Dorothy, let me have you start.
Yeah, well, I mean, first we have our spot bills. Those are those placeholder bills that are saying it is the intent of the legislator to do yada, 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 so on and so forth. So, of course, those are all going to change. But then there are a suite of bills dealing with workplace technology, saying you cannot use this type of technology for this purpose, or you need to notify employees before any type of this technology is used in the workplace, or you have to show what kind of data is being collected. This is a reintro of a bill we saw last year, sort of the workplace technology bill, AB 1331. We saw 7 major overhauls of that bill as it moved through multiple committees on policy, on fiscal, and by the time it hit the floor, it was very much changed. It was narrowed. It was, more concise. But we also have a saying that you don't amend a bad bill. So we hope that any of the bills we're working on, either we can get these bills to a good place or we're able to stop them from creating harmful or negative situations for our schools out there.
And I see a comment in here from Jesus Montana who says he's noticed 1/3 of the bills are spot bills this year. Have we had that many in the past? What would you say to that, Dorothy?
That's pretty standard. The deadline to get your substance, the meat on the bones, just passed the other week. So bills have to be in print for 30 days before they can be heard in committee. And for those spot bills, they need to have substance if they're going to get referred in the first place. So yeah, we are seeing, I think, a really high volume of bills between the 2 years of the 2-year session, but that's pretty standard for our spot bills.
Okay. Cordell, same question for you. Any proposed legislation that you're seeing now that maybe by the time lawmakers are voting on it is not going to look the same, or at least you don't think it's going to look the same?
Yeah, I think so far this year, I've seen a handful of both public safety and special education bills that are being introduced right now. Many of them are still spot bills, but as we're kind of meeting with legislator offices and trying to get more information about what these look like in the future, I think we can look at a Marisucci bill that would look at adding special education to special education add-on that would kind of increase funding for schools around special education. As we know in the past, we have continued to have heard. Many districts are kind of seeing an increase in identification and a lot of the funding associated with that. And so that's a bill we're looking forward to. On the public safety side, there are a handful of bills that are looking at how to increase school safety through school safety plans. And as we know, and that's supported, Marisucci bill last year and this year, that's kind of look at reducing those. We're taking a very close look at that to make sure it's not creating more administrative burden.
Helio Brasil, one of our great members here, has put in a question in the chat. What looks most alarming in terms of implications on public education? I know you guys were both just talking about spot bills, but I'll leave this to either of you is to respond to that question. Most alarming, anything that's coming up that you're like, oh, this doesn't look good?
The most alarming, I would say, for me in my portfolio has to be the $5.6 billion withholding. Again, last year was 1.9, this year is 5.6. Next year, Proposition 98 is proposed to increase next year by about $10 billion. And so I think, if, although it might be a new administration, if this type of structure continues to move forward, we're nervous, frankly, about what that number might look like next year if there is no end to, undermining Proposition 98, which is supposed to provide stable and predictable school funding for districts.
Dorothy, any thoughts?
Yeah, it's not new, but unfortunately, again, we're seeing a dozen or so bills sponsored by our labor partners that ties the hands of our education leaders to staff, support, fund, classroom and non-classroom based opportunities. So these one-size-fit-all policies that take things off the collective bargaining table and a mandate that, again, given the diversity and needs of our students and our LEAs in California, really just won't work. So that'll be the big focus area for us, at least in my portfolio moving forward this year.
And Cordell, one final question, and it's not about a bill, but a discussion topic. What are you hearing in the Capitol related to the governor's proposal about changing some of what the SPI is responsible for, changing that role of the SPI? What are you hearing?
I think there's a lot of interest and positive support for what the governor's proposing around CDE and state board. Generally, we've heard from the field for the last several years is that there's a lack of coherence between CDE and State Board of Education, and that is from that lack of coherence that creates a lot of difficulty at the local level, and that's from lack of coherence around guidance, kind of conflicting pieces of information, what type of leadership we're seeing for both entities, and so I think there's going to be a lot of questions moving forward around how can we use this proposal to kind of create that coherence that we're looking at. And we're also a very interesting time right now where we have both the governor and the current SBI leaving. And so does that create a new opportunity to bring in fresh eyes, a new set of leaders who can kind of help create this cohesion that we're so desperately needing? There's a hearing coming up on March 25th in which our ACSA president, Dr. Darrell Camp, will be presenting. We'll be working alongside with other experts, talking about ways to kind of improve this proposal to make sure that we have very sustainable, long-lasting, positive impact on education.
All right. Cordell Hampton, Dorothy Johnson, ACSA Governmental Relations Advocates, experts over at the state capitol. Dorothy and Cordell, thanks so much for being with us today. Dorothy, I promise it will not be a year before we have you back. So just be prepared. You're going to be first off the bench now because you told us that.
All right, Coach, put me in. I'm ready.
Perfect. Thanks to both of you for joining us. Again, we'll have you back. Folks, let me tell you a little bit about the brand new ACSA.org. Our brand new website has just launched. Stronger navigation and search features, links to our professional development, our conferences, our events. You can learn more about the Principals Playbook. You can connect to the ACSA Resource Hub. You can also find out about our latest ACSA Legislative Lunch Breaks. And of course, you can learn more about our leadership and our entire organization. Visit ACSA.org. Also want to tell you about a great event that's coming up in a matter of days. That's our ACSA Equity Institute. That is in Anaheim, coming your way later this month, March 25th through 27th. As I said, the Westin in Anaheim. Equity for real, anchored in integrity when the tide shifts. You can get more information, ACSA.org/professional-learning, or after the show, go to that QR code for more information and registration. Folks, if you like what you've seen here on the live and interactive ACSA Legislative Lunch Break, we invite you to be part of our family on ACSA YouTube, ACSA LinkedIn, and ACSA Facebook. If you subscribe to us, you will get instant alerts. Turn on your notifications. You will get instant alerts when we're about to come on the air with breaking news. And of course, reminders about our regularly scheduled Wednesday broadcasts. And if you have great stories happening in your school communities, we want to tell those stories too. Send your photos, your talking points, your news releases to our EdCal editor, Michelle Carl at mcarl@axa.org. Folks, thanks so much for joining us here on the live and interactive ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. Remember, we are live and interactive Wednesdays, 1 p.m. here on ACSA Facebook, ACSA YouTube, and ACSA LinkedIn. Have a great rest of the day and rest of the week, and we'll see you next time.